there is a huge difference between familiar and right. And knowing the difference between these two can 10x your capacity for powerful and influential speaking and communicating. So very often I hear this phrase when I'm trying to teach people about how to use their voice and how to use their presence on stage or for presenting or just in meetings where they want to communicate an idea or a project. Very often we work on tone and volume and how we're holding ourselves and how we're presenting ourselves. And inevitably, this sentence comes up. This just doesn't feel right. It's not me. And this is one of my favorite moments because then we get to dive into what is the difference between familiar, meaning something that you have learned and habituated to a point that it becomes part of how you see yourself, what your identity is, versus what is actually right or what is within the realm of possibility for your voice, your body, whatever it may be. And I had this beautiful client who was in my office and we were working exactly on this. They had gotten feedback that their presentations were not very dynamic, they weren't engaging. And so we were working on both the storytelling and the speaking presence. And when we were talking about voice, we were talking about tone and volume and how when we use more of our full range, it tends to create more dynamicness that keeps other people engaged and excited to listen. And we were working on one exercise and that phrase came up. This just doesn't feel right. This is not me. And I said, have you ever yelled at anybody? And they said, well, yeah, of course I have. Like, I'm not proud of it, but yes, of course. And I said, okay, did you raise your voice then? Like, yes, of course. I said, okay, have you ever asked a question and at the end you went up to ask the question? I said, yes, of course I have. Of course I've asked a question. And I said, okay, so it's not that your voice, your mouth is not capable of doing those things. It's that you have created a habit of speaking in a specific way. So what if you could learn a new way of speaking, one that allows you to stretch that rubber band a little bit, right? It's not asking you to become a totally different person, but to just widen the range of the volume, of the tone, of the way that you hold yourself and you present yourself. Would that be worth it if it means the difference between somebody falling asleep in your presentation and not giving you, in this case, the funding that you desperately need for this project? Versus being able to stand up there and having your audience glued to, you and listening and hanging on every word that you're saying because they're so engaged and they feel you. And they said, yeah, that would be awesome. And I said, okay, so just for this once, let's remember that this is a learned thing, right? It is familiar, it's comfortable. But what happens if you give yourself permission to stretch a little bit, to step outside of that old comfort zone, knowing that it's not right and wrong, but it's just a chance to stretch the rubber band, to grow, and possibly have a huge impact in the way that you are perceived and the way that your message is received by those who really matter.